Hello and welcome to another episode of Tester Speak, and I'm your host Brijesh Dev. Well, my guest today is somebody whom I have known for a while now, a very vocal speaker, somebody who likes to express herself openly, very candid, very direct at times, and at times submissive, because sometimes you need to be submissive to express your own opinion in a better way. So this is somebody whom I have always admired as a tester, and I would like to introduce to you my guest, that is Jyoti Mishra. Welcome, Jyoti.
Hi, Brijesh, and thank you for those kind words. Especially my submissive nature, you put it out as a positive. So thank you so much.
Well, Jyoti, it is. Uh, I look at it positively because sometimes, in order for you to express yourself properly, you need to switch gears. That's how I see it.
Mhm.
So sometimes, if you are very aggressive and if you suddenly become submissive, people notice that.
Mhm.
That is the reason why I think it is important for us to uh, be like that, and that is a quality that I admire. Okay, that you are not going all guns blazing all the time. At times, you take a back seat and you like to listen to people, consume what is being thrown at you, analyze, and then bring out your points, which is a good thing. Otherwise, if we stick to being aggressive all the time, then we'll result only in conflicts and not in solutions, right? So that's how I look at it, and that is the reason why I admire that. So welcome to Test to Speak.
Thank you.
It is very nice to have you finally on the show. Uh, we I have been thinking about getting you on the show for quite some time, but finally I've managed. Before
Mhm.
anything else, I would like to wish you a very happy Diwali, and through you to all the viewers of Tester Speak, wishing you all a very happy Diwali.
Mhm.
And it is quite magnanimous of Jyoti to have given me her time on the day of Diwali to do this recording. It is supposed to be a holiday worldwide, and we are supposed to be celebrating Diwali, but she's kind enough to give me time. So yeah, thank you, Jyoti, for doing this.
Oh no, Brijesh, you're being so humble. More than me, it's like you who has given me this strength and opportunity to come and open and speak. I was little hesitant to come up and speak. I've spoken in my organization. I've given presentation, but I have never done a talk like this. So you've been very supportive, and yes, you had to run behind me because I was not agreeing. I was just saying no. I haven't done anything special that I should talk about. But yes, you made me realize that no, in this 9 years of testing, I have done things, and I think I can talk about it. There have been some amazing things which I have done in these 9 years. There has been a lot of learning and unlearning phases as well, professionally, personally, with respect to soft skills as well. There have been time wherein I had to just step back and think about my behavior as well. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. Okay, so you've now opened a Pandora's box. Now let's see what all things I can pick out of that box. Okay. Okay. So beginning with your journey, how did you get started with testing?
So, Brijesh, I'm that kind of a student who would listen to his or her teacher, whatever they'll say, whether in school. So, when I was school, and some of my teacher they said, "Oh, Jyoti, I think you should be a doctor." So I started pursuing that. Think they it didn't work out. Then during my MCA time. Okay, so there was this guest faculty who was taking our class on software engineering. So it was that teacher who told me that, Jyoti, I think you'll be a good tester. Okay, so that somehow stuck to my mind. I don't know what he saw. He had given me some research work to do, so which I had done, and he gave me a nice score. And apart from the score, he told me this thing that he see me as a good tester. And trust me, I didn't know about what testing is. I had never done testing, but it's him who saw something in me, and he said that you should go ahead and pursue software testing. Uh, so when so even when there used to be company who used to come for placements and they used to look for a development role, I never applied. I was someone who had a good score throughout, so eligibility was never a problem. But I always, since my teacher told me, and I am someone who listened to the teachers or mentor very seriously, so I sat for a software testing jobs only, and I pursued software testing.
There you go. I mean, I was talking about you being submissive, right? That's the very I would say, I don't know, English not being my native language, people may question me that okay, my definitions are a bit haywire, but you know, one of the things about being submissive is listening to somebody, is obeying what is being told to you. Okay, so so you started your career on that note, which is good, and now you've been in the industry for 9+ years.
I'll be completing 9 years in January.
Completing 9 years. So how has the journey been?
Yeah, so it was exciting. So my first company, it had a division, like you were a part of feature development team, then you were part of automation team. So as an intern, I joined that organization as an intern. Even my interview went so well that my manager, he was just looking forward for me to join the organization. So I've built that repo in wherever I've gone. So just because I've been very polite, I don't get angry. I have lots of patience. Yeah. So I joined that organization, and I joined a feature development team. So it was into event management, more of a hospitality. Okay, so if you have to organize the event, so you send RFP, then you get proposal. So my project was more into it. So the first project, in the first project, it was, they were revamping their email notification, which they used to send, like once you create an RFP, it used to send certain kind of notification, then used to get proposal. So there were so many workflows and used to get notification. And the way my interview had gone, I was the first QE who was given to handle the project independently. So I handled that project independently. Okay, there were my leaders who used to guide me, but they gave me open hand. Okay, this is your project, we think you can do it alone, you need a little bit of mentoring, but you will take care of that. So this is how I started. So for 2.5 years, whatever project I got, I think that time you're not that smart enough to understand what is manual testing, what is automation testing. It's like you've gone into the industry, you are there to learn. So there used to be time, Brijesh, in night I used to woke up and I used to write test cases just to ensure that I don't miss anything. Okay, and next day I used to go and I used to execute those test cases. So for 2.5 years, it was more into feature development, uh, testing, giving demos, participating in brainstorming session. And then only I think agile started. So till then it was waterfall. So it was a nice period for 6 months. You after 6 months you had to release the product. Okay, and then when agile started in my organization, I was moved to automation team. Because what used to happen, how I moved to automation team, so there was this separate team who used to take care of automation. So they used to run the automation and they used to send the cases. Okay, for your feature, these are the cases we ran and here is the failure. So I used to find out the root cause of those failure, and I just never used to mark them. Okay, this is expected, this should fail or this should not fail. I used to give them the reasons why they failed, and hence I was moved to the automation team. So initial phase in my automation team was to do this job only. So we were moving from QTP to Selenium, so they wanted somebody to take care of the cases which are there in the QTP, so I had to maintain. Okay, initially they took me for doing the result and analysis, but I used to take that opportunity so seriously. I used to sit at night 8 p.m., 9 p.m. fixing those scripts as well, because their initial plan was, okay, we'll take Jyoti's help in the result analysis and maintenance, and once that's done, we have fully migrated to Selenium, we'll move back to her feature development team. But that never happened. I took that opportunity. Yeah. So those 5 years, then it was mainly on automation, learning the framework. I got an opportunity to go, like I had a business trip wherein I had to teach 2-3 teams how to. So my first, I mean, the company had acquired 2-3 teams. There, they didn't know about anything about the automation. So I went there I went to Boston, I went to Dallas, I went to Virginia in same trip. And the purpose was to train people on how to leverage automation. So I learned their product first, because without knowing their product, I can't teach them automation. So knowing the product is important. So I learned their product. Then I taught them from very basic, what are locators, what is Git, what is Jenkins, how to write the test cases, what is the purpose of each keyword. And then here and there I used to do small POC. Like I worked on Gatling performance testing in my organization. Performance testing was not something which was being focused on. So the my then VP in automation, he gave me this opportunity. He even taught me a lot of stuff in performance testing. So yeah, so 2.5 years it was more into feature development, it was hardcore testing. Then 5 years it was automation, mainly automation. So I didn't know about this challenges of release, retrospective, bug leakage. And I had created that image in my mind, okay, automation testers are superior, okay, we are better than the sprint team. But after, I think after 7.5 years, when I started looking for a job, okay, and I used to apply for a automation role. But then people, they used to ask me testing related question, okay, UI testing and all. British, honestly, I used to get angry because I used to think, oh, I have applied for automation testing. Why they are asking me stuff related to manual testing or functional testing? Don't they understand that I was working in an automation team? But when it started happening once or twice, then I realized, no, there's something wrong in my thinking. Like nobody, there was time I got an offer, but the person said, we'll give you a 60%, you'll be part of a feature development team, and 40% you'll be part of automation team. I straight away rejected that offer, saying no, I want vice versa. So that kind of understanding I had, and that kind of environment which was built, okay, it was not just my thinking, it was how we were being exposed to think like, okay, the people who are work in a sprint team, they are not doing a great job, it's automation engineers who are doing a great job. So now I think from past 1.5 years, I would say the true meaning of testing I've realized. And now I've started learning, exploring, reading stuff, reading blog, reading books, going to conferences. Yeah. Earlier I used to go to conference, the purpose used to be participate in the hackathon which is being held and win prizes. It was not to understand, okay, my thinking is shallow, there is more to it. Sorry, the journey has been like lot of self realization.
Well, for the first time on Tester Speak, I am actually speechless. Okay, so I do not have words to react to this, because I have never seen somebody do such a candid admission on the show, just like you did. I mean, it is incredible, and people need to watch this episode and listen to this, last couple of minutes of your talk, because you've hit the nail right on the head. You have pointed out at, if I may use the word, stigma in the testing fraternity, that okay, it is automation which is calling the shots. Okay, we are automation engineers. We don't care about any other job or any other role or anything else that is offered to us. We are superior people. We come. Everybody else is on or from Earth. We are probably from Jupiter. Okay, so that's that's the kind of mindset that a lot of people possess, and to get around it and to get past it, I think you've done a great job. Okay, to realize that it is a level playing field for everybody. Okay, automation, yes, it is a great skill to have. Okay, and the kind of work that you did, uh, not just go automate, but actually dig deeper into points where automation has failed and why. To understand that and then to go ahead and teach people, I think that is good. So I know when you started talking about your journey, you mentioned something about learning and unlearning, and I see that as you've described your journey better. So how would you, or rather, what are the things that you thought you need to probably unlearn in order to become a better tester?
Yeah, first I would say there was a behavioral aspect which I had to change my thinking, that automation is everything. Okay, and whatever I know test about testing is what is it? There's nothing more. Okay, you get a requirement, you'll test it, and it's done. Okay. uh, Now I know, now I've realized that it's not just understanding the requirement. You should know the architecture. You should know, somebody in LinkedIn post, I think in Ministry of Testing, it was posted, what do you I exactly don't remember, but the crux of it was, how can you ensure better testing? So this is how, yeah, the question was, what do you mean by out of box thinking? So this is what is out of box thinking. You're thinking which is not written there, which is not explicit. So how would you be able to think? You'll be able to do the critical analysis and all those things if you know the architecture, if you communicate with your developers, with your architect, with your scrum master, with your project manager. So that's one thing which I learned, which is, I think, helping me to be a better tester. And second is not to consider that you have 9 years of experience, so you know more than what your juniors know. No, there are my juniors who know more than me. Okay, there are times I miss the bug and they catch it and they tell me also, okay Jyoti, we found this. So I accept, yes, I missed it, and then I ask them, how did you come to this bug, how did you find out? So now my more of it, like I'm focusing more on learning from everybody, from my seniors, from my juniors. uh, there are, I mean, see, you see this demarcation, manual and automation, but there are people in my team who are such a good subject matter expert. They are such a good, but what they are told that, okay, we don't see anything from you from automation point of view. So I take up, oh, I apologize, I'm sorry. It's my mother who is calling me. Sorry, I'll
It's
just
okay if you want to speak to her.
no. So I'll just put it on silent. I think I forgot to inform her that I have a interview.
She'll see it in a few hours.
Yeah, where was I? Yeah, so the thing which I used to think as a superior, now if it is done to my juniors, they are compared that, okay, oh, you're doing good job in product testing, but we don't see anything from automation. So I stand up for them, like whatever they are doing is they are adding value. That person, he finds kind of bugs he finds, Brijesh, or the analysis he does, like, if there is anything in production that won't be straightforward, and you need a different kind of skill to spot those, and he's so good at it. But yeah, where automation is concerned, the number of scripts he has written till now is zero. Okay, he's not, but apart from that, he has given so much, like with his testing, with his analytical skill, troubleshooting, we are getting a lot of benefits.
So let me ask you this, Jyoti. So you said the automation scripts that he has written as zero.
Hmm.
Do you think that should even be a criteria like that?
Yes, Brajesh, that's what I was saying. No, that shouldn't be criteria. If he has not written automation script, he has done a lot of other things which are adding value. Okay, there are times you write the scripts, they are failing, nobody is maintaining it. So there were people who would write 5,000 test cases. So in number you will see, okay, they are 4,000, 5,000. But when you analyze, when you dig deep, then you'll get to know how much of value those cases are adding. So yes, he has not done automation, but apart from automation, he's doing so much of thing. Like, I'm in fintech industry, so you need a bank environment to test, right? Nobody would give you the environment, so he creates those simulators so that we can test is easily. So if he has not written automated automation scripts, but he has done an automation in a different form, which is easing our life. Now if I have to test anything related to, say, Kotak Bank, I don't have to be dependent on Kotak's UAT, because he has created that for me, and I can go ahead and proceed. So he's easing my life, he's easing out my life, by using automation in a different form, right? So for me, yes, he stands at a higher value, as compared to the person who has written 4-5 thousand scripts, but it's of no use to the product and it's not adding any value. So at the end, everything is about adding value.
I'm actually glad that we are having this conversation. But before I proceed, I want to thank you for bringing in Ministry of Testing. I want to give a shout out to MOT for the job that they have been doing. Okay, they have been an inspiration for me for many years. I mean, initially when Ministry of Testing was started by Rosie Sherry, and then it was picked up by Richard Bradshaw, and these guys are doing such an incredible job. It's not just the two of them. I mean, there is a whole bunch of people who are associated with MOT, and you know, I have had interactions on Twitter, on LinkedIn with them, and they've been exemplary. The kind of knowledge that they share, the kind of stuff that they share. It is a large community which has inspired me and a lot of others in the TTC group. So I'm glad that you mentioned them. And for people who are watching this show, I mean, Ministry of Testing is one of the communities you should follow. They have great content. They have good, solid questions that they ask with the one-liners that come out on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and it's fun following the discussions after that. So yeah, and we try and do something like that as well. We ask questions which should make you actually think. And if you're thinking of testing as something just to do with writing a few scripts or finding a few bugs or marking a few test cases pass or fail, well, no. Let me just tell you that your view is in that case very limited. You have got to expand the horizon. Like Jyoti said, you have to learn a lot of things. Behavioral aspect is important. Developing that mindset is important. I think you've touched upon some very important, very interesting points. Okay, now over the years, you started with an industry where you said that you have to deal with a lot of workflows. Okay, and now, for example, an email generation of an event. Okay, and then a follow-up email to that. Okay, then there is a whole cycle. Okay, so when the event is first announced, you do a broadcast, and then 2 days later or 3 days later, you do another reminder broadcast, and then till the event happens, and then even after the event happens, it continues. And this is a part of a normal workflow in such a case. Now, if you ask me, how do I know? Okay, I have done event management for a group called Agile Testing Alliance. I did that for quite a while. I was a national level coordinator for them in India, and I used to really coordinate all the events that were happening, all the meetups, the conferences, everything. So the entire process was there, right from the scratch, to build the conference event, to follow up with the end and all that. So I did all of that, and in that I realized that there could be a lot of automation that can actually help us. And that would actually be your business process automation, because it's a business process, right? So that's where your BPA, RPA, and things like that will come. Right? You can automate this email generation and follow-up email generation and broadcast and things like that, just as an example. Okay, so when you started talking about testing and you started saying that, okay, you used to first look after feature development, and then you moved into automation team. I am assuming you're talking about test automation and not business process automation.
Yeah, it was test automation.
Okay. So do you see a difference between test automation and business process automation?
I think, see, my knowledge in that area is not that good. So probably I won't be able to give you a clear demarcation between both the two. But yes, from the term which I understand, and probably I'll explore after the session. So with test automation, what I understand is the test cases which you are writing or the cases which you are executing, you're automating that. Okay, business process automation is, for example, if there is a client who needs to who wants a report, certain kind of a report daily. Okay, so rather him going and downloading the report, you set a some kind of a cron job, something which generates that report and send it to his or her email box. So that way you're making his life easier. So this is what I understand.
And your understanding is absolutely correct. And this is
Okay.
exactly what I wanted to bring to the table. Okay, a lot of people think that one or the other will do the job for them.
Mhm.
A lot of people try and draw similarities, but there is a difference.
Mhm.
Okay, now when you set up these cron jobs and you're trying to bring those things into the mailbox of the person who has requested that, what is important is to note that to be able to test that
Mhm.
process of cron job running properly or not, and the emails getting generated or not, you will need to do some testing, right? And then you can automate that. So you can have test automation within process automation.
Mhm.
Process automation and test automation are two separate things. One is probably, what should I say, superset of the other one. Okay,
Okay.
and that's how it is. And you brought it out very beautifully with an example. So so I've been thinking about it. I saw a post recently, and probably I'm going to write about it as well. That when people do such comparisons,
Mhm.
you know, for me it is like comparing apples and oranges. Why do I say that?
Mhm.
Apples and oranges both are fruits.
Yeah.
So somebody might argue saying, "Oh, both are fruits.
Mhm.
Apples and oranges both are delicious."
Mhm.
Somebody might argue saying, "Hey, both are delicious. Apples and oranges both are nutritious." Somebody might argue, "Hey, both are nutritious." But apples are apples, oranges are oranges, right? So,
Yeah.
so, well, I think I have divulged quite a bit, but you're going to read something about on the same lines pretty soon. So,
Mhm.
you will come to know when the blog is out.
Okay.
Anyways, now I want to go back to your journey,
Mhm.
where you also mentioned something about you know you said that when you started, you did a lot of learning, you did a lot of unlearning, and then you spoke about leadership and things like that. So you've now attained some sort of a leadership role,
Mhm.
okay, over the years. So do you think, as a tester, it is important that the leadership actually kind of uh, should be aware of testing,
Yeah.
okay, more than anything else?
Yes, yes, Rajesh. That plays a very important role in every aspect. Like lately, I was telling you, right? Till 2019, I was not aware about the test community, about the great testers which we have in India or outside India. But now, when I listen to them, I think I was listening to Pradeep, who is from Mulya. Okay, so he had one talk on the business value of testing. So wherein he was talking about it was TribalCon, so I heard it on YouTube. So see, if you're a leader who knows about the pain points of the testing or who understands the importance of a testing, like you or Pradeep or the other leaders out there, they are the one who, when there would be a given a chance to do the decision making with respect to budget or with respect to timeline. If these people are there in that leadership group, they'll be able to showcase what tester does and why you should not treat us as a second class citizen. Like, okay, you always hear that, okay, dev versus QC, okay, or you always hear that, okay, there should be just one QC over six developer. Have you ever heard anything like that, that in development there should be one back end and one front end? You don't see that kind of a thing. Okay, at least I have not heard. Similarly, you never hear about the PM and dev ratio. Okay, in my current organization, we are a very small group of QAs, but there are umpteen number of product managers, and it gets so difficult to accommodate each and everyone's requirement. Like, I'll do the planning for my team, I'll do the bandwidth allocation, I'll give them that pump up talk. Okay, for this sprint, these are our important priority tasks. After a week, our priority would change. Then I have to again sit with back with them, so I have to do a lot of this cycling stuff. So yes, if there would be a leader who knows about testing, who knows these pain point of planning, replanning, of time constraint, that person would be able to uh, teach people, educate people about the importance of a testing. Then probably, like, there have been, I had conversation in my appraisal meeting wherein I had said that devs are doing their job, I am doing my job, I am doing best in my job, they are doing best in their job. But when it comes to appraisal, for example, or promotion, why is it that they are given more importance as compared to us? The reason is, the CEO, CTO, or the VP of engineering, he was developer, right? So he has that developer mindset. He has that, believe me or not, people get that, have that biasness. Also, I don't want that if there is a VP of engineering who is a tester, that person gets biased towards tester. But yes, you need to have someone in the leadership group who knows, who has done those testing, right? If I have done testing as a fresher, as a lead, as a manager, I'll be able to defend my team better, I'll be able to speak up for my team better. Okay, so I in this organization, I have my manager who was a hands-on tester. So I see the way he defends us. Okay, if we have to write RCA also, anything, he's there to defend us, he's there to talk about us. So you need a leader who should know the field well, not just because, okay, you need somebody to represent a quality engineering team, you make anybody into that role.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I could not help, having that smirk. Uh, you've been using a word very frequently, defending.
Mhm.
This is a word that you've used quite frequently. And now I'm going to pick you on this, on this particular word. What do we have to defend against?
I think, Brijesh, the stigma or the notion which has been created around testers. If I would say, like, have you ever seen on LinkedIn? Maybe they are not there in my connection. I've never seen a developer coming out in open and talking about things like nothing called manual testing. There are a lot of skills. It's us who are, I don't know. It's us who are always speaking. We are trying to educate. So that's what I mean by defending. Maybe that couldn't be a good word to say, but I see that why we have to prove ourselves all the time. At times it gets very annoying. Why do I have to tell people that testing is important? We are doing a very important job. Everywhere you see, if there has to be done any selection, it would be some other role first and then the testers. So that's something, it gets a little disappointing at times. Okay, rather than proving ourselves, rather than defending ourselves, probably we can use that time to learn a lot of stuff. Okay, there are so many good things to learn around, to explore. But most of our time, I think James and Michael, they have been doing this from so many years, right? And it's even you and me, we are doing till now. I don't know when this thing is going to stop, when we are going to be treated as, yes, we are doing a important job. Maybe we as a tester also have to understand that there are testers in a group who, example, I gave you my example, that even I used to think that automation is superior, they are not doing that great job, the kind of job we are doing. So I think because of all these things, I'm using this word defend, defend, defend.
So let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
more than it being a stigma across the industry,
Mm-hmm.
it is a stigma within the testers community itself, that
Yes.
we are not looking at other fellow testers with the kind of respect that we should be looking at. You think that is the problem?
Yes, Brijesh, that is a problem. I think one battle, again, battle is a very strong word, but the one battle which we as a tester are fighting is to give tester that importance. Okay, but within our community also there is a separate battle going on, like, okay, manual versus QA, manual versus automation, generalization versus specialization. So a lot of internal battle is going within the community, I mean test community itself. So here we see, you I always follow this: you'll have your strength, you'll have a weakness. Okay, so strength is something you have which would take you ahead. Weakness is something you have to work on, right? So maybe if someone has done UI testing, functional testing a lot, and has not worked in automation, don't that could be his weakness. He'll learn and he'll move forward, but he has a very important strength also, so value that strength at least.
But why is not knowing automation a weakness?
Mm-hmm.
Why is not knowing automation considered to be a weakness?
So agree or disagree, automation they does solve some of your problems,
Yes,
Rajesh.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, they do. Like regression testing, they play. And for example, I'll give you where we have used automation, not just for regression testing. We had to build environments, right? We had a silo wherein we had to test our features. So you don't want your team member to invest time in that environment development, right? You want that, okay, the DevOps, they have developed the environment. You need to feed in some data so that at least the base are ready. So there we have used automation, right? If automation won't have been there, it would have taken 1 or 2 days of QA effort to, okay, to create a user, log in via that user, create some RFPs, proposal, event, blah blah blah. So I feel automation, they do help you out in a lot of stuff.
Well, I tricked you into giving this answer, and you've given me more than that I asked for. I wanted you to tell me what other places is automation more useful other than regression, and I think you've done just that, because there is a view a lot of times when I talk to testers. Okay, they tell me that, okay, when they start defending automation, the only use case that they have is regression testing. They say, okay, it will make my life easy when I'm doing regression testing because it's a lot of repetitive work. My point of view is automation is much more than that.
Yeah.
You've given one example: environment configurations. Okay, that's one good example. The other examples could be, you know, generation of test data that can be automated, visualization of test reports that can be automated, remote monitoring of systems that can be automated. So there are multiple things that you can actually look at. So you have to pull yourself out of the purview of test cases and look beyond. Okay, and testing is not just limited to test cases. Okay, and that's why I don't like to use the word test cases. I like to use the word test instead. Okay, so the moment you start thinking of test cases, you start thinking of pass fail. Okay, and when I say test, a test could have more results than just pass fail.
Yes.
Yeah, so the result set expands, and that's something that I look at, and I'm glad that you're talking about all this. It's been it's more like a situation where I'm also starting to think of ways where, you know, we should need to focus our energy on. You've mentioned something really good, that yes, there are internal battles that we are fighting. Okay, we are talking about manual versus automation. That's been going on for quite some time. Automation is better, manual is poor. Okay, if you know automation, you are demigod. If you don't know automation, you're nobody. Okay, my view is pretty clear on this one, that there is nothing called manual testing. Similarly, I say that there is nothing called automation testing also. Okay, the only thing is that I did not create that hashtag, because once I used that, and I was accused of of starting a hashtag war. Okay, so so I said, okay, no, nothing called manual testing is enough. Enough, enough to unruffle some feathers. Still, a lot of people don't agree. A lot of people think that no, you need it because you need to classify for job allocation and resource allocation and things like that. But I'm not sure if that's the right approach you should be taking because again you're classifying manual versus automation. You look at it holistically because what you are trying to focus on by that demarcation or by that classification is in a siloed or rather a blinkered fashion where you're looking at just test cases, you're looking at just the conformance with requirements, you're not looking at uncertainties, you're not looking at unknowns. And when we talk about testing, it is much more than just that. So I'm glad that you've been able to bring out these points and even make me think about it, which is quite good. Now I want to basically move into a slightly different direction now. Now you've spent close to 9 years. You've you know you started your journey as a test engineer. Maybe now you are a lead. Okay. So in future, when you get into, say, for example, a role like some sort of a management position, okay, eventually we'll all get there. So at that time, would you want to make any radical changes to the way testing is done today in the industry?
Yeah, first thing which I think we have been talking about is making people realize that the job which we do, it's not, nobody chooses testing because they didn't get into any other profile. Okay, so they chose testing. I'm assuming, yes, most of us, we choose testing because we wanted to. Okay, so that's one thing which I would like people to think. And second, I would like to inculcate this culture that value, I mean, you should not judge somebody just because of A or B or C skills. Okay, you should judge the person for his dedication and kind of a value with his skills, with his strength, he's been able to add it to your organization, to your projects. Like I have seen example wherein uh, you have a technical guy who created the framework, but that person is not able to teach, he's not able to educate people like how to use it. They are missing on to that skill. But then there are people, maybe they have not created the automation framework, but they know the automation so well, they know each piece, they know, okay, what is a good candidate for automation, what is a bad candidate. Even that thinking is important. Okay, so I'll focus more on these areas rather than judging people on, okay, people or my peers or my juniors on this aspect that, okay, how much automation they are doing. Probably my end goal would always be what value they are adding to the project they are working on. Are they speaking when it is required to be spoken of? Okay, so I think this is very personal example, but the second organization which I joined, Brijesh, like I was there for 4-5 months. Okay, so the product they gave me on which I had to work, so I could see a lot of improvement areas because of my experience of first organization. But there I was told, like the scrum master who was the front end developer as well, there they had this culture of developer used to be a scrum master. So she used to become very aggressive, like how can you tell product owner that what is right and what is wrong?
Why not?
Okay, I don't know. So I could not. I think so. I thought that I should not waste my energy there. It was a very good organization. Trust me, they had got good tech stack. Okay, they were into Kubernetes and a lot of good things which I had not worked on. So that's why I had selected that organization as one of the choices. But when I saw this kind of a culture wherein you are just told to do stuff and you cannot. You don't have that visibility with the product owner. You can't tell the product owner that what is right, what is wrong. If I have to tell something, first I have to write an email, scrum master would review it and then she would forward it whether this need to be sent. So I don't want that kind of a culture, and that was the reason I I left. Okay, I know if I would have been there, technically I would have grown a lot. I've got a good exposure, but if I as a tester, you're not heard, you cannot speak up. Okay, there were people who are there, they haven't left, they're okay with that culture, but I was not okay with that culture. And same thing, I would like that if I become a manager, I give that uh, opportunity for my juniors, that they can go ahead, they can challenge anything they want, but at least that they have to ensure that they are challenging, but that has to be backed up with data, with some research. Okay, I always tell my juniors, okay, if you're getting to work on any feature, find out if so similar feature was being developed somewhere else, because you have a lot of competitors around, right? So they would have worked, try to find out about their pitfall, just don't focus on what is given to you. So that's one thing I would like to change, like think as a whole, and just don't make sure that you do what product owner said or what business are saying. You also have to speak up, and as you are involved, you know, like there are times while testing only you'll realize, oh, what kind of feature is this? So you have to speak up.
Well, yeah, I think you've brought out some very good points. This is the problem in a lot of places where testers do not have access to the product owner. Just, it's quite a weird thing. And we've had one more guest on the show previously, Shefali Jain. Even she mentioned something like this, that access to the product owner is limited to development team. Now that's quite a weird situation, and this is more for the audience, that if you are a part of these organizations, maybe you need to go and tell these organizations to get some education. Just to be very honest, and I'm being very direct, I know that my talk will upset a few people, but if you are thinking that this kind of mindset you can actually call as agile, then I'm sorry. It's not at all agile, because first of all, having somebody do a dual role of a development, a developer and a scrum master. First of all, I don't think that just does justice to the role of a scrum master. Number one. Number two, if a tester or anybody in the team has a suggestion, he or she should be able to walk up to the product owner and say, hey, this is what I think. What do you think? Can we brainstorm? Okay, this is normal protocol. I mean, and when I say protocol, it's if you want to be successful, you would want to have that as a protocol. If you don't have that, then you're not doing any justice, and it pains me very deeply when I hear such stories. Like, what are you doing? What are you even thinking? Right? So, yeah, I mean, you are actually making me think a lot, and making me say things. But I know that I may get bashed, but it's okay. And that's fine. That's what we are here for. We want to help people understand that we have a perspective, and we have all the rights in the world to express our perspective. And maybe if you are following certain practices which are not bringing value, then there's no point. And I know that you've been stressing on a fact that the value needs to come out. That's what I also keep saying, and you, I think, emphasized it very strongly, that testers add a lot of value. It's good for everybody to realize that, okay, there is some value that is being brought out. Now, we've had a lot of serious, the discussion has gone into a very serious direction. So I want to make it a little fun.
Okay.
A little interesting. So I'm going to do a quick rapid fire with you.
Okay.
And so the rules are very simple. Okay. You don't get more than 5 seconds to think of an answer.
Mhm.
You have to be very instant. And in case of multiple choice, where you have to select one answer, you have to give the reason why you have selected that option.
Okay, okay. Okay.
All right. So let me begin, and let me begin by asking you a question. Oh, let me change the order of the question.
Okay.
All right. Secunderabad or Delhi?
Sikandrabad. Reason, I think those 3 years which I was there, I see I had a lot of learning. Okay. So my house, it was in Hyderabad, but my school was in Secunderabad. So we had to wake up 5:30 in the morning. Okay. So it was a busy day, right? But that journey was very interesting. Like before that, life was very easy for me. My school was 5 minutes from my home, but that was like 20-24 kilometers. Okay. So yes, so there I got this. Okay, not everything is so accessible. You have to put a lot of effort. And so since I was in before Secunderabad, I was in Maharashtra, wherein uh, you could talk in Hindi, right? But when you go to south part, you uh, people, they don't know Hindi that well. So that was those 3 years where I learned English, I would say. Yeah, I knew how to write, but how to speak, that was the place where I learned English. And then the kind of competition, like before that, it was easy for me to come into those ranking, first three, first five, but there it was tough. There were people more talented than me. They were really hardworking people. So those 3 years, they built me in all the aspect. I got that confidence that I can travel. We used to have extra classes, and I had to ensure that I don't miss that extra class. I don't know, I somehow used to take their local bus, and I used to reach my home. So I got that confidence that I can travel alone. Then the competition, kind of competition I got, and then the soft skills which I inculcated, it was from that place. So I, in my school journey, those 3 years were the best years.
Awesome. I can still see the passion in you, the way your eyes lit up here in Secunderabad. I'm not sure whether you were expecting a question around that. So, okay, what's your, and we are talking of no COVID situation, okay? What's your favorite holiday destination in a no COVID situation?
Oh, I'm not a travel person, honestly. Brijesh, I like to relax. I'm very lazy where traveling is concerned. But if I have to pick, I'll go for Switzerland. And a reason is I've listened to this Sri Devi's song and Yash Chopra's movies. So I find Switzerland very fascinating. So that would be my go-to destination.
You should visit soon. I I don't live too far away.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Another reason.
So yeah, yeah, I have been fortunate enough to go there a couple of times with one of my friends living there. So that makes life a little easy. Uh,
Mhm.
that's a good pick for a holiday destination. All right. So since you've traveled all over the country, my next question is, what's your favorite food?
Oh, I like sambar, rice and sambar. I mean, anything South Indian, I love.
Well, that's very interesting
Uh-huh.
because I would not associate sambar rice with a Delhiite. normally, normally, but I think your love for Secunderabad still shows there. So this is good. Uh, all right. So if I have to say, from a professional perspective, testing or management, what would be
Testing,
your okay? Good.
no doubt, testing.
Why? Why?
uh, I'll tell you. I'm someone who, maybe women are like that. We are very nurturing. We cannot take that. I mean, at least I can't take that very strong decision. If somebody in my team, he or she is not doing as expected, I won't be that harsh to them. At times it is required to be harsh, but I can't do that, and I feel okay. I'll rather give me a project. I'll test it individually, but then give this hard feedback to someone. So I think that's not my cup. 20-30% would do. Like if I have to just manage the project, like I have done PMP, just to understand how project management is all about. So if I have to manage project, yes, I'm okay with it. But if it's about managing people and then emotion gets involved, there I am little weak. In fact, my manager, he says that he'll cut my marks if I don't become strong and start giving strong feedback to my juniors. He at times he calls me, stop being their mother. Let them do their job. So yeah, that's something I'm not strong at.
That's that's being a little too direct, I would say. All right. So, what do you think is more important for a tester? Testing skills or communication skills?
Communication skill. If you cannot communicate, be it a challenge or anything interesting, or you won't be able to do a good job as a tester. Like okay, then what is the difference between a fresher who joins and you or me? Because we are there, we are communicating, we are trying to find out so many aspects of that software. Okay, we so I feel communication. If you have that communication skills, you'll be able to ask those questions which would be required for your testing. So if you can't communicate, if you can't ask questions, how would you be able to test better?
Well, that was the end of the rapid fire. I think you did pretty well.
Mhm.
Um, so, but that leads me into my next question for you.
Mhm.
You mentioned communication skills. Now,
Mhm.
when I talk about communication skills, does it need to be absolutely grammatically correct English for you to be a good communicator, or what do you mean by good communication skills?
You should be able to see, as long as you are able to speak out, you are being heard, or you can understand what is being told to you, should suffice. The grammatically correct English and all those things, not you, that you learn over a period. You'll get exposure, you learn, okay, once you work in MNC culture and all those stuff. But it's more of, if are you able to raise question, understand stuff. For me, that is communication. Whatever you know, see, I know a lot of stuff, but if I'm not able to teach or educate, it's of no good. Okay, I was a good individual contributor, but when now I'm a team lead, wherein I have to take care of my team and projects, so there you have to speak up, and you need those communication skills, need to build those relationships. So that would play an important role.
Right. Plus, in a role like yours, you are mm, talking in multiple directions. You're talking to your team, you're talking to your management. You're kind of the bridge between the two, so you have to balance
Mhm.
both the worlds, which is so. Yeah, that's quite interesting. So I have really appreciated or enjoyed the conversation with you so far, because you've been very candid, very direct. Okay, and one thing that I want to tell the audience, that it's one thing uh, uh, being good at your job, but it's another thing to be able to confidently accept that there are things that you've failed at, that there are things that you've learned over a period of time, and to admit it in such a candid fashion. And Jyoti just showed that how you can do it so easily. So, Jyoti, thank you so much, because I think people, when they watch, they will see that okay, it is rather, it gives you a comfort when you are able to acknowledge that you did not know certain things, or you have failed and you have learned, and you want to share it with the rest of the world. So thank you for doing this. I really appreciate, because I knew from the beginning that if I start talking to you, it'll probably go in this direction. That's why I was trying to sort of get you. You also mentioned at the start that you were kind of hesitant, thinking that there was not much to show. and now we know what you've got to show.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we know, because yeah, for me personally, I've known you
Mm.
at a personal level, so I know some more things which others don't know, which is, which is why maybe I was more confident that okay, there is
Mhm.
this side to you which people should know, and I'm glad that this interview is happening, and people will now realize this. This has been a learning interview for me. There are certain things that I will pick up from this. Okay, and I really appreciate you being so candid, so direct, and you've displayed what I said in the introduction, that it's a combination of aggressiveness and submissiveness. I mean, it's not that a person has to be continuously aggressive all the time. Does not help. Sometimes you just pull yourself back. Okay, listen, be calm, introspect. Okay, do some unlearning if required. Do some upskilling if required. You know, consume whatever is around you in a manner which is positive, and you've used certain words very strongly. You've emphasized on value quite a bit, so I'm very happy to say that you are uh, someone like me who's focused on value. A value driven approach is what I like to take, which you also like to take. So I'm glad that we are doing this interview. I know that my audience must be thinking, hey, this guy is going on a sort of an admiration trip. But I need to tell the audience that it is not easy for somebody to break the shell and come out and speak out like what Jyoti has done, because I know how much convincing I had to do to get Jyoti for this interview. So thank you, Jyoti, for doing this, and
Thank you.
thank you for doing this on the day of Diwali. Uh, so I wish you and your family a very happy Diwali once again. Okay, and I'm glad that we are doing early in the morning so that you have the rest of the day free for the celebrations. I wish you could send me some sweets from.
Yeah, why not? My father, he's with lockdown, he's learning a lot of new recipes. So when I'll go home, I'll ask him.
Yeah, of course, and in the post-COVID world, I need to meet you in person and
Hmm.
maybe try some of those sweets if they're still available, or get some freshly made.
Oh,
For,
he's learning quick recipes. I mean, my father, he's very fond of food, but with lockdown, he's fulfilling that passion of his by learning himself. So I see him, he'll be searching and searching for a recipe in afternoon, and then in evening he'll be trying those recipes.
so has it ever been that a recipe has gone bad, or there's been a disaster or something like that?
Till now, no problem. My mother, she doesn't like his way of cooking, but we enjoy it. But because they're so delicious, once he gave me a sweet to eat, and he was asking me, "Can you guess what is it made up of?" I said so many stuff, and later on, it turned out to be made out of green apple, and I
Huh?
could not. Yeah. So
Wow.
he,
Okay. So sweet made out of green apple. I've got to taste that. So okay.
yeah.
So I know I know now what exactly to ask for when I visit you. Okay. So it'll be interesting talking to your dad as well. I'm very
Yeah, I learned from him, Brijesh. Like he's 50 plus, but he never stopped learning. Like he's always reading stuff, exploring stuff. And we used to say, oh, once we are complete our post graduation, we won't study because we've been studying for 15, 20 years. Now we don't want to study anything. But after looking at him, he's still learning stuff. He's exploring stuff. So that's something which I've learned from my father. Like learning should never stop.
well. It's interesting, and there's a common thread between Jyoti and me, and it is that both our fathers have been in the defense services. So and that's something that is with my father as well. My father is 75 plus, it's more than that, and he's still learning. Okay, constantly learning every day. Every day he's got something new. to share, something new to tell us, and that's always there. So I think people who are in that kind of a profession, they make it a part of their life to constantly keep learning, and that is something that you know we also need to emulate, because that helps us become better individuals at the end of the day. Anyways, thank you so much, Jyoti, for giving that sneak peek into your personal life and sharing thoughts about your dad. So, of course, again, happy Diwali. Enjoy the festival. Okay, have lots of sweets. All right, and take care of yourself. And we'll talk soon again.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Bridget. Thank you so much, and wish you a happy Diwali to you and to your family as well. Yeah. Now you can go and have some rest.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Okay. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.